Hey everybody, welcome to our Wednesday webinar here at TimeSolv. We're at the top of the hour and we will get started in just another minute or so. I do want to, as always, let people who might be a little late straggling into the webinar get situated. So you're in the right spot. You should be seeing my screen with the slide telling you where you are. And I will come back in about another minute or so and we will get started. Thanks everybody. Okay, I am going to go ahead and get started. Looks like everyone who plans on joining the webinar is here. So welcome. It is the second Wednesday of the month, so it is Wednesday webinar time here at TimeSolv. This is Scott Clayson, the marketing director here, and we will spend the next 30 to 45 minutes talking about the tips and tricks to get the most out of TimeSolv. Happy to see many names that I recognize who attend these webinars on a monthly basis, make it part of your routine. We very much appreciate that and hope that you feel like you're getting plenty out of it. So let's go ahead and run through some of the kind of, this is for the people who joined before, you sort of know the drill here. Everyone is on mute. You will have the opportunity to ask questions when we get through each of the topics we'll be discussing today. For those that are new to our Wednesday webinar, what we generally do here during this time is review the previous month's tip of the week emails that we send out. Generally every Monday we send out a tip of the week, and this is an opportunity to sort of see those tips live and in action. So there are usually 4 tips that we'll go over during the course of this webinar. And as I mentioned at the top, generally it takes anywhere from 30 minutes to 45 minutes. So there is a chat icon you should see, and as well as a Q&A icon that you should see on your screen where you can leave questions. I prefer the Q&A box, but I have, obviously I can see both in the chat and the question and answer section when you decide to raise your hand and ask a question. So with that being said, let's talk about our topics for the month. All right, we have 4 tips that we'll review today. A couple of these, I think only one of these is actually a brand new feature that has been rolled out in the last month or so, and a couple of things are just good reminders of what you can do within TimeSolv. So the first topic that we'll cover today is actually a new feature that is rolled out, and that is we now have the ability to give a discount to your client on just fees. So essentially just the billable time and not expenses. That's a feature that was often requested and is now available, and I'll show you how you can use that within TimeSolv. And then one of the tip of the weeks we had earlier this month, or I should say in September, I believe, was just around how to get the most out of our knowledge base. If you haven't accessed it before, you know, we obviously have a knowledge base with a number of help articles and so on to try to answer any questions you have about TimeSolv. But I also want to highlight some of the other ways in which you can communicate with us and try to get help when you get stuck with something. We really do want to make sure that you all remain happy and healthy in using TimeSolv, and we'll try to assist you as best we can. And you know, if we can't, at least take down the ideas that you suggest to all of us, so that we can bring that to our product team and it can be put into the pipeline for future development assessment. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Then I do want to, the next topic will be the revenue and commissions report, and how to run that and why it can be important and what to do with that. Make sure you have your commissions set up properly. That's one component of it as well. We know that a lot of law firms and a lot of non-legal firms will pay their associates based on the amount of revenue that they bring in. They get a commission off of the work that they're doing potentially. So how to run that within TimeSolv is a topic we'll cover. And then last, a small and relatively quick one. I think I've gone over this one before, but I just want to make note of it because I think it's an important feature to understand. And that is how you can, in batch, change the invoice date for whatever date you want it to be. And I'll talk briefly about how the format has changed. If you all haven't noticed that, the formatting of the date on an invoice has changed. So that's the topics we're going to cover today. So let's get started and get right into our TimeSolv account. I'm going to move this over to my other screen. I swear I'm going to move this over to my other screen. There we go. Okay, so what we want to talk about here now is a new feature that allows you the ability to define discounts only on the fees that you are placing on an invoice. And as I mentioned, that is something that's been discussed a lot. So let's talk about sort of the previously, when you decided there was two places where you could say you want to give a discount. You could do it right at the individual specific draft invoice, or you could designate overall for a client or for a matter to just in general give a discount for that matter. So let's show you that ability first. When you go under clients and matters, and let's just select any matter here. So Amir is the title of our client, and then test is the name of our matter. When we go to our invoice settings tab right here, you will notice that in the other settings area, we have this row, discount percentage. And so you could basically set up that for any invoice you do for this particular matter, you're going to apply a 10% discount. This is where now we have this new feature where you can check this box to apply that discount only on fees. What that means obviously is only on the time entries, not any expense entries that you may place on an invoice for this matter. And it's logical. You want the flexibility to apply a discount to just the fees, but the expenses are the expenses, and you're gonna, you're generally passing those on to the client, right? So whether it's for parking or it's for meals or lodging or travel or copies, whatever it might be as an expense, you're not inclined usually to apply a discount to that. And previously, when applying a discount, it applied it across the board to the entire invoice and was not specific to just the fees as it is now. So you just check this box here, make sure you come down here and hit save. And now any invoice that you are creating for this particular matter will have a 10% discount applied only to the fees, okay? And Poonam, I'll answer that question when I get done here in just a second. So let me finish showing the rest of the feature here. The other area where you can apply that discount on fees only is at the specific invoice level. So we're going to go to a draft invoice here. And as you all know, for any draft invoice you have created, to do any edits, you just simply click on the dollar amount. Then under the totals tab is where you could apply, again, a discount, say it's 10%, and apply that discount to fees only. In this case, for this particular invoice, I don't have any expenses, it's just all time. So you can see it gives the straight 10% discount off of that. So, if you know that you have invoices with no expenses, you don't necessarily need to check this box, but this is the other area where you can apply the discount on fees only. So you do it at the specific invoice level, or you do it at the general matter level or project level. So the question from Puna, is it possible to show fees and discount by project rather than a lump sum? Most law firms want to see these by practice group department. So if I am reading this correctly, if you're applying a discount by project, then yes, you could do that by on the client and matters. If you're doing an invoice that's specifically for just one project, then same thing. But if you want to see it by like specific time entries, and maybe that's what you're talking about, like CAS codes per se, whatever that, if you're talking about different rates, maybe I'm not understanding the question properly, and maybe we can talk about that even after this webinar, so I can make sure I'm understanding what you're asking. Any other questions on this? I know I didn't really answer that question very well, but I want to make sure I'm understanding it, what exactly you're trying to find out here. Any other questions about applying a discount to fees only? It's pretty straightforward. I wouldn't think there'd be a lot of questions there. Okay. Let's move on then. Let's talk about the next topic of today's webinar is getting the most out of our knowledge base. Hopefully most of you know that we do have a knowledge base that allows you to try to answer a lot of your questions. So the main first question out of the box could be, how do I access it? Anytime you're in TimeSolv here, you can get to our knowledge base one of two ways. You can get to it, and yes, by the way, these webinars are recorded, and there will be a link sent out either later today or tomorrow, so you can watch this if you did miss the first few minutes. Thank you for that question. Anywhere within the TimeSolv application, up in the upper right-hand corner, if you click on this help button, that's going to automatically open up our knowledge base. And the website is just help.timesolv.com. And you can see we have various categories laid out, and you can see the number of articles, help articles we have within each category. Hopefully that can get you where you need to go. You can also search our knowledge base here, depending on the topic. The other area within our within the application itself to access and try to receive help is from this help icon down here in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. This is a little bit more interactive. When you click on help, it's going to populate the help articles that we think is most relevant to the page that you're on. So if you notice, we're on the time entry page here. So it's going to serve up the article managing time entries, managing time approvals, managing rates, and so on. These are the articles that are most relevant to this page. To access them, you can do one of two things, or you can just click on the actual, anywhere within this block, and it's going to open up the article right within the application here, as you can see, and you can read it in that fashion, and then you could X out here. The other less obvious way, if you'd like to, and I'm personally this type of reader, I don't want to necessarily read the article in such a small environment here. I personally don't like that. If you want to open up this article in a separate tab, actually click on the title itself. Oh, or did they take that away? That used to be where you could, oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back. If you click on the article, it comes up. Go right here to the name, the top name of the article, and you can see this little icon here, which tells you, hopefully you all know that little icon means you will open up into a new tab. So you click on that, and it's going to open up this article within the help site itself, managing time entries. So again, you can read it, in the application itself. click on the title, and it's going to open up a whole new tab for you to read it in just maybe a little easier fashion. Okay, so the other way then to access help within the application, once you have this pop up here open, obviously go to the Ask section. We do have live chat that you can access during normal business hours, or you can always email us as well, and that goes directly to support@timesolv.com, so you can have that one-on-one conversation with us. When you're over here, excuse me, in the knowledge base, we do have some FAQs that we think are helpful. These are the questions that come up most frequently, which is why we've created these. We hear these a lot, so we try to have that FAQ answer them. Most articles that you will encounter will have a video companion to it, and it will be embedded right within the article. For example, this creating time entry, you can watch a video about that. Oftentimes we have some animated GIFs as well that should help you a little bit in trying to find the answer that you need. We have these, tool tips that will be kind of popped out in green there and so on. Okay, so we have those videos. The other thing that is worth noticing is we do have a full category down here called release notes. Every time there's a new release to TimeSolv, we will have an article listing what was updated. And while this, if you look closely at this long number, TimeSolv version, 2020, this is a date, 2020-0928, just basically means September 28th, 2020 is when this release was put out. So you click on that, and it's just a brief overview about, enhancements that were done and fixes to bugs. So more recently, you all have probably seen a pop-up that has appeared over in the lower right-hand corner letting you know about a new release with a link to the release notes. That's something we've implemented as well to make sure that you all are aware of the new releases that we've put out. The other thing I want to emphasize here is how to get in front of our actual support people. And there's a couple of ways to do that. If you go to online meeting here in the upper right-hand corner of our help site, you can schedule a general meeting with us. This pops up a scheduler where you can schedule either a 15-minute or 30-minute session. Choose the date and time that works for you. These meeting numbers are basically just handy guides. Some of you may have worked with this before. If you're actually on the phone, and here's obviously our phone number here, with support, and we need to do a screen share, they will probably often tell you like, hey, go to help.timesolv.com, click on online meeting, and click on meeting number 4 or meeting number 5. This is all of our support people, and the meetings, these are specific to a unique person. So these won't mean anything unless you're being directed. You'll be directed to go to these meeting buttons here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you want to schedule a meeting out in the future, use the schedule a general meeting. And then you guys are obviously on top of the fact that we do have weekly training as well as obviously our Wednesday webinars. But we also do, and this is a nice, hopefully you're aware of this, for new members or associates at your firm who may need training. We do weekly trainings, excuse me. We do a weekly essentials training. This would be for new people who are going to be probably admins of their TimeSolv account. We do them Wednesday at 1 o'clock Eastern. We do a timekeeper specific training. This is going to be generally for the rank and file timekeepers who they don't need to mess with any of the other back-end settings. They just need to know how do I go about making sure I enter my time against a client matter. So we do that on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern. We do invoice training to how to generate your invoices properly, drafts, send them, doing all that stuff, Thursdays at 1 p.m. Eastern. And then our last one that we offer weekly at 2:30 p.m. Eastern is about how to apply payments. So if you ever know that you're in that area of help that you need, I would suggest just popping into one of these weekly meetings that we offer. And again, you can always go to our weekly training meeting here link and register for them as needed. Okay. I think that's about all I have to cover with the knowledge base specifically, making sure you're aware of all the different ways you can get in touch with us. And obviously down here, I should, before we leave, on the help site itself, we have a an icon as well that can pop up, and you then have the ability to start a conversation, either an email or a chat. And I think you probably, and again, if you go to the contact page, this is another area where we have our phone numbers. We do offer, as many of you know, email support until 10 p.m. Eastern, phone support to 8 p.m. Eastern. And then you can submit a question that you might have as well. So we're trying to give you as many different paths to get the answers you need as possible in the method that serves you and your schedule best. All right. Well, let's move on from there. And let's talk about revenue and commissions. So I'm back over in my TimeSolv account. Many firms, many businesses will, obviously pay their associates based off commission. And there's a variety of ways you can track that commission depending on how your company does it within TimeSolv. So the first area is you can set a commission for a specific professional within their actual profile here, their user profile. So I went under account professionals, I clicked on the name of one of my professionals, and then over down in this bottom right-hand area is where you can talk about the commission essentially. And you can edit commissions. So you would click on that and you could say for all clients and matters, they're gonna get a 5% commission. So it doesn't matter who it is they're doing the work for, maybe it's just a blanket commission of some sort. You can also choose very specific clients and matters and give them a commission that they will get for the work that's done for that client and matter. We also allow the ability for users to have a commission manager. So maybe the manager also gets a cut of the pie here. So you can designate that with a commission manager and what percent they're going to get. Then you can also, let me check one thing real quick here. Yes, I should, before we get too deep into this, I wanted to make sure that this question would potentially come up. You do have to enable commissions in your TimeSolv account. It's not turned on, I don't believe, by default. So under account settings is where I'm at the very bottom here. You would just do enable commissions and you would just make sure that box is toggled. Okay. Yeah, somebody else asked if there's a list of topics you're planning to cover. I did go over that at the top of the webinar. If you were just a little late running in there, I'm covering 4 topics. I'm in the third of the 4 right now, running revenue and commissions report. So yeah, and welcome. I'm glad to see some new people that are on the webinar here. So what you do want to enable commissions here. You can do fixed holdback amounts if you'd like. That can get a little bit more complicated. So you can set, like I said, the commissions at the professional level. You can also handle commissions at the client, at the matter level. If you click on a particular matter, you can designate a responsible professional. And when you choose them, you have the option to give them a commission percentage. Now, the difference here is that a responsible professional, they don't have to have logged any time at all against this client and matter in order to receive the commission. They would receive commission on any and all time that was entered for this particular matter if you gave them a certain percent here. We also give you the ability to designate originating professionals. Oftentimes, I know there's a lot of firms, a lot of businesses that will give what's called some people call it a finder's fee, where attorneys do a lot of networking, as we know. That's a popular way in order to gain new business, is go to a lot of networking events, Chamber of Commerce events, those sort of things, bar association events. And if they are able to get some work off of those networking events, they may not actually be the ones doing the work, might be a whole different line of practice area for a firm. But there's an incentive there potentially that, hey, if you're the originating professional, you brought the work in, we'll give you a certain percent, let's say, of that. And you can add in TimeSolv as many originating professionals as you need to. This was actually a relatively new feature. We used to only allow you to assign one originating professional to each particular matter, but there was a firm that had multiple originators that they wanted to designate. So we did include this feature because we thought that was pretty handy to have. So again, the originating professional doesn't have to do any time or against this particular matter in order to get that commission. You just designate it, or you don't have to give them commission at all if you don't like, obviously. But once you have that in place, then you're obviously every month going to want to run a commission and revenue report to determine who should get paid what. So to do that, you want to go under the reports section here. You're going to scroll down under performance to our revenue and commissions report. And then in this area, you can see you have a lot of different filters that you can apply. But it's a great way of seeing how much money each timekeeper has brought in for a given time period. Now, you can view it by client matter level. You can designate specific clients and matters. You can filter by, if you've created categories and assigned particular categories, you can filter in that. You can see lots of different ways in which you can filter, but more importantly, these three areas: professional, responsible professional, originating professional. These cover the exact categories I just described. The professional level, meaning what you've designated for that user profile, responsible professional, as I showed you, and then the originating professional. So in this case, let's just do originating professional. Show me the commission that should come to Tony Hill, who's designated as originating professional. I'm going to toggle off of this include professional and just say I want to include originating professional. That's all I'm doing right now is the originating professional section. Obviously, you can include all of this, including the professional manager section that I showed you as well. You could do a date range as needed, filter based on the invoice dates or the dates that the payments came in. And then output it in whatever fashion you'd like. PDF is the default. So let's just generate this quick. This is going to be kind of a pretty generic report, but I just want to give you all an idea about what it can do here. Okay, so we're going to download it here. And I'm going to open it up, and you can see that as the originating professional, Tony Hill is the originating professional for the client named Larry and Larry's new matter. And these are the various invoices that have been sent, the total on the invoice, the fees on the invoice, and that can be different if you're putting both fees and expenses on it. And more importantly, you can see what's been collected versus, two of these invoices obviously have been paid off. Two of them still haven't been. There's still, fees to be collected. So it's only going to show you and generate the report, what the commission owed based on the fees collected. And that's an important thing, obviously. You don't want to pay somebody for money you haven't gotten yet. So when it's running this report, it's running it based on the fees collected. Well, in this particular invoice, we collected $715. Tony Hill receives 2% of that, and here's his total. And then it'll give you the overall totals down here. So it's really that simple. And, you would want to do it for, if we did it for, say he's not the responsible, well, let's do it this way. If for just Tony Hill in general, let's just, run it here by the professional, basically, whether he's the overall professional, responsible, originating, that sort of thing. And you can see how it'll break up this report into those particular categories. Oh, no data found. Yeah, I believe that there should be data. Oh, I know why, because let's check professional. There we go. It's important to note you can also include inactive matters here. You may have noticed that. Oh, why is it telling me no data found? Let's just do this. Let's just do responsible professional. Just responsible professional. Okay. There we go. So now as a responsible professional, you can see the various matters that Tony Hill is designated as the professional responsible. And again, what the invoice total was, what the fees were, and what has been collected. And then the percent commission that's been designated to this person, to Tony Hill. You can see there's a couple pages worth here. So, you know, he's owed $1,266.35 off of almost $24,000 of collected fees that he was designated as the responsible professional for. Pretty simple stuff, fairly straightforward. Just got to make sure you have it in place as needed. And whether you're going to designate or run your commissions as for the responsible professional, an originator, or give just a flat commission across the board, no matter you know, what client or matter that a professional is working on, they're going to get a percent of the fees collected for those time entries. So, questions on that? Okay, I don't see any questions coming across. That's a positive. Okay. Let's move on then to our last topic for today. And it's one I know we've covered before, but again, I think it's an important one, and that is updating the invoice dates and format. So what I'm talking about is when you have draft invoices, notice that I created these draft invoices on September 9th, but they're still in the draft mode. I haven't sent them. So if I were to send them today, you know, you notice if I pull up this draft invoice, let's take a look at it quickly. You know, it says September 9th here. Well, it's not September 9th, right? You know, when you create your draft invoices, many of you probably know, when you create them, you can put in what you want the invoice date to be, because we know that not, you know, just because you're creating the draft today doesn't mean you're going to be sending the invoice today, and you want your invoice date to, you know, match today's date. I'm willing to bet. So let's say you have, you know, 100 invoices and you generate them today, you know, October 14th, but you want to send them, you know you're going to send them, you get done doing all the edits, all of the, you know, chasing down things, they're all ready to go, and by now it's October 16th, let's say. Well, you can mass update. I mean, you could update these one at a time. You could go to each individual invoice, click on it, change the invoice date to whatever date you want right here in this field. Well, that's tedious, and we don't want to do that. We want to save you all time. So the way to go about doing that is from the actual draft invoice screen, select all of the, come on. Why are we a little stuck here? Can you all hear my, I'm wondering if you all can hear the piano in the background. My son is playing piano right now upstairs. But my headset is pretty good at doing noise cancellation, but he is playing the piano right now. Okay, so we have all of our draft invoices ready to go, and we want to change the date. So I'm just gonna come over here and select all of the invoices here, or the one, you know, you can select the specific ones that you want to, and then go to change invoice date. It'll open up, and now you can change it to whatever date you need to change it to, hit save. Like for these, for example, I've just been sitting on them since September 9th, and I want to update them to today. So I'm going to update them, and there the day has changed to October 14th. Now when I go to preview that same invoice that I was looking at a couple of minutes ago, instead of saying September 9th, it says October 14th. So a nice feature that we released a couple of months ago to allow you to mass update essentially the invoice date for all of your draft invoices. The other quick thing I wanted to show you is you may have noticed that the date itself here used to be in a numeric format. You know, it would say 10/14/2020. That has now been updated to write out the date, October 14th, 2020. That is by default. There's not a place where you can necessarily change that back to the numeric date if you like. It's going to read as this now. That doesn't affect other areas where dates are, like your time entry details, invoice period, that sort of stuff, payment on 9/8. If you need to update this date, because we all, you know, most of us who have do anything outside the United States know that a lot of countries in the world will put the month first, put the day first, then the month, then the year. And the way you can, as a firm, if you need to change that, if you do any invoicing for your, over into Europe or somewhere else, you can go to settings here, account settings, and change the format here to, you could do day first, then month, then year, or you could even do year first if you'd like. By default, when you start your TimeSolv account, it's going to be the traditional US way of month, then day, then year. I see there is a little bit of, you can hear a little bit of the piano, so hopefully it's just nice, like a lounge room background music for you all. Okay, any questions about the settings, the date formats and that sort of thing, or mass updating the dates? Any other overall questions that you may have? We have run up against all 4 topics now. We're right in between that half hour to 45 minutes that I hoped we would be, so we're doing well with time. Oh, while we do have the time, and please, if you do have any questions, please, you can put them in, but as you are, I know this came up from one of our attendees earlier today, a question, I'm not even sure if they're still on the call or not, is, it's a common question, I think, is essentially you have an outstanding invoice, but there is no new work for the client. So when you go to generate invoices, it's not going to pull an invoice for them because they don't have any new work. Hopefully all of you are aware of how you can send statements by going under invoices and statements, excuse me, and generating a statement. You can do a specific client, you can do all, and if they've had no invoice since, so if you haven't been able to generate an invoice for them since, like, let's say September 1st or whatever, then you can create, statements and then send them as you send your invoices, edit them. No, I'm sorry, they aren't editable once you are ready to roll with them, and you can print them and email them as needed. The other way that I also suggest, if you need to resend invoice, or if you need to send a statement or whatever the case may be, go to your sent invoice screen, choose a particular date range. So like, show me all the invoices that I sent from August 1st to August 31st, let's say. So show me the August invoices I sent. I don't even know if I have any here. Let's see. Looks like I do. Okay, so I have these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 invoices that I've sent. I'm going to sort by balance column. You can see I have 1 that's paid and 5 that aren't. So if I want to I could resend these invoices. Just check the box here, okay? And you could resend them. The other thing you could do, especially if you're going to send these invoices via email, you could come in, and this is in the sent invoice screen, you can edit these invoices, go click on the dollar amount, go to the narratives, and this is where you could change the default narrative to say, this is a reminder, this is a reminder of your overdue invoice. Please see attached. If you have any questions, please contact Julie at blah, blah, blah. So the email message itself, the body of the email, will reflect the fact that this is an overdue invoice. So that's the other method you could do. And then you could just hit resend right from this screen if you'd like. So that's another way that you can make sure that you are getting the information out to people who still owe money. That's why I've always talked about, to many of you who have been on here before, about using this sent invoice screen really as almost like a running AR. Go to the date range, pull up the invoices you sent for that date range, and simply sort by the balance column. You just hit it twice. The first time you hit it, it's going to put all the paid invoices up to the top. Hit it a second time, and it's going to reverse sort by the highest balance due on down to the lowest balance due, and then finally all your paid invoices. And obviously the goal every month is to knock these out with payments that have come in. Question somebody had, do we have an ETA on the upcoming report writer? I wish I did. I know that our product team is still evaluating essentially the method in which we're going to be building the report writer. I would say, you know, we do plan on having the report writer. I'm going to conservatively say, you know, sometime in Q1 of 2021. I don't want to overpromise anything. I do know it is a high priority from the top, from our CEO, of getting a new report writer in place, along with dashboards that would be customizable and so on. So that's the only news I can really give you on that. Is that yes, we will have a new report writing mechanism. I'm hoping Q1 of 2021. We just entered, you know, so sometime in the next 6 months, basically. Hopefully that, I mean, I wish I could say yes, it'll be here next week, but that's the best answer I can give you. So, any other questions that you have before we wrap up here? Again, this is being recorded. I will send out a link as soon as it's available, either later today or tomorrow. And our next Wednesday webinar should be on November 11th, Wednesday, November 11th. Again, an easy way to get to it to register, go to the help, go to weekly training, go to the Wednesday webinar, which of course isn't weekly, click on the webinar, register now, and you can see the dates. You'll only have November 11th and December 9th left for 2020, obviously. And you can register for both of those at the same time if you'd like. And some of you I know have registered for all of our Wednesday webinars in advance. So, okay, everybody, I appreciate your time today. Let me know if you have any other questions that you think of. If you're like me, I always think of my best questions minutes after I get done speaking with somebody or being involved with something. So please email me and we'll do what we can to help you out. So thank you everybody very much. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great rest of your week. Have a great rest of your month. We will talk to you all soon.